Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope you are studying well and receiving all the virtual classes while staying at your home and be careful about yourself. We are, as you know, studying political science, and the chapter that we are studying is what is democracy, why democracy. In the first two lectures, you may have grasped uh, different things about this term democracy and why democracy. Uh, we have also discussed the futures of this democracy, that what is what are those futures which make a government a really a democratic one. As we know, there are so many countries claiming to be democracies, but they are not actually democracies. Why? Because the criteria that or the features that democracy contains, the features that democracy contains are not fulfilled. So, on a state, for becoming a truly or really democratic state, a democracy must fulfill the features of democracy. In that, we have discussed the first three features in the last lecture, that is, major decisions are taken by elected leaders. In democracies, the decisions are taken by elected leaders. Democracy, as compared to other forms of government, is better because it is a government in which people elect their leaders, their representatives, who form a government and rule according to the wishes of people. Because in democracies, the final choice rests with people. It is people who make the government, who can change the government. Right? So, in democracies, if people think that a particular political party which used to be in government has not done well according to their wishes, fulfilled the promises, people can kick the government, people can kick that party out. And we see winning and losing part and parcel of this democratic government. So, a government, in order to be called a real democracy, must contain the features of democracy. The first feature is final decision making power rests with elected leaders. And major decisions are taken by elected leaders in democracies. If in a state the government is formed after holding elections, proper elections, in a democratic way, but the final decision making power, which used to be in the head of the state, prime minister or the president, is influenced by other parties, is influenced by, say, for example, army, is influenced by, say, for example, the religious mafia. So we cannot call then that government as democratic. This is the first feature, that major decisions are taken by elected leaders without any external or internal interference. Number two, free and fair electoral competition. There must be equal opportunity for all the political parties, and elections must be free. Because if elections are not done in a fair way, then people's choice is mocked. People's choice becomes irrelevant there. Because malpractices can make anything happen, right? So the second feature of this democracy is that elections must be free and fair, and equal opportunity must be given to all. Number third, one person, one vote, one value. It is the most important feature of democracy. Every person, all the persons in a state, all the people in a state have equal political rights, that is right to vote. And everybody's vote contains the same value. For example, if we make a comparison, if two persons goes to a polling booth for casting their vote, one is the former prime minister or the president, and another is the ordinary layman. Both go to the polling station, the same polling station, and the votes of both these two have same value. Means कि in democracies, if a particular person's vote is given more value than others, then we cannot call that democracy. We have discussed these three yesterday, and today we have one more important feature of democracy, without which democracy cannot be called a better form of government. That is rule of law and respect for rights. Real democracies or pure democracies, they rule according to the constitution, because constitution is the basis of democracy. Government cannot function without a laid rules, without a written, without a constitution, because you have to rule the territory according to a specific rules, specified rules, and those rules are embedded in a constitution. So in that way, constitution became the basis of this democratic government, and this democratic government is has to rule according to law, and has to respect for rights, right? So democracy, if a democratic government does not rule according to law, then that government can't be a democratic one, because respecting individual rights, respecting citizens' rights is important in democracies. If the government does not respect the rights of its citizens, then it is only a democracy in name. It can't be called a pure democracy. So these are the four major features of democracy. Wherever we find these features, we can call the state as a democratic state. If these features are not present, then it is not proper to call the state as a democratic state. Democracy, as we know, we have in the beginning we understood that democracy is a form of government in which rulers are elected by the people, and these people elect their representatives, elect their representatives through elections. Elections must be free and fair. Then these representatives form a government, right, and rule according to the constitution. As compared to other forms of government, democracy is better in that way because it gives people a choice and opportunity to help elect their representatives. So in that way, it is a better form of government. But since democracy is not the only or the government or the form of government which cannot have demerits. As compared to other forms of government, democracy also democracy is a better form of government as compared to other forms of government, but it doesn't mean that it is not laced with demerits. So today we will also see uh, merits and demerits of democracy. Today we will look into what are the demerits of or the arguments against democracy. Democracy, as we know, is a form of government in which people elect their rulers, and the rulers uh, keep on changing. Rulers keep on changing, which leads to instability. Right? Also, it leads to incomplete development. Say, for example, if a party which is in government loses the election, the projects or the development programs of that party will remain incomplete because the new party will form, new leaders, new leadership will rule according to their own model. So in that way, it leads to political instability, or it is not so much better for development. Also, argument against democracy is that of political competition and power play, there is no scope for morality. These political players, political parties, they are always in a struggle for power, in a competition, and they use whatever means, irrespective of morality. They get these voters, they get these voters, they mobilize the public support by any means. The means could be uh, misuse of uh, ethnic or religious or polarization. So, in this way, we can say this democracy has its own problems. So, also there is corruption when we see electoral competition. Political parties used money power to gain public support. So, in that way, it leads to corruption. Also, there's always decision making, delays in decision making. See how we know that in democracy, decisions are taken by elected leaders. Elected leaders have to make a decision, and in that, everybody's view is taken into consideration. And if the leaders, if some political figures, they are not giving their views well in time. So it leads to political, it leads to delays in decision making or bill passage. If we see in democracies how bills are passed, it's a lengthy process. So in that way, there are delays in bill, be it money bill or ordinary bill. In the passing of bill, it leads to delays. And also in democracies, one more argument against democracy is that people do not know what is good for them. See, people go on to vote, cast their votes without knowing what is good for them. They vote for a particular party, and later on the party is found to mar the wishes, the promises of the people. In this way, we can say this democracy has its problems. It is not a better form of government. And tomorrow we will see arguments for democracy. Right? So arguments against democracy. Okay. So tomorrow we will inshallah see arguments for democracy and what are the merits of democracy and what are those merits which make democracy a better form of government and due to which democracy is now found almost everywhere in the world. Till then, thank you very much.